jungle. I seen so many fumble. I seen them lose their faith. I seen them fade away. I seen some come and go. Just know I'm here to stay. I pray to the Father, the Daddy make a way. Bring on that line when they bustin' into it. Gotta say the little bit, so we tired of losing. New Torah movement. New Torah movement. Bring out that war machine, that be that hot with the tank on the ground, and I really want a problem. New Torah movement. New Torah movement. Very many Frenches, no gang holding me. Told this tour might bang holding these for run, girl, for the doctors sure. Better stay in your lane, homie. I do this for you, carry the pain on me. Get on that block with the stains on me. Pray shot, never would change on me. Pray the blessings that they would just rain on me. Different the starting fellas, different the ones that losing their faith cause they pray every day and they feel like nothing happened. You know that we need you, we praying, we crying, calling, trying to read. They say them chains be moving around like some eagles, vultures with them scriptures eat you. Get off my back, that's the devil. Get on my level, it's heavy. I'm not reaching out of breath. I'm a prophet, not seven. Trying to feature this mess, but I feel like nobody won't tell them I said it. Deep down up in this jungle, I seen so many fumble. I seen them lose their faith. I seen them fade away. I seen some come and go. Just know I'm here to stay. I pray to the Father, the Daddy make a way. Bring on that line when they bustin' into it. Gotta say a little bit, so we tired of losing. New Torah movement. New Torah movement. Bring out that war machine, that be that hot with the tanks on the ground, and I really want a problem. New Torah movement. New Torah movement. Born in this really scene. Take it for steps, it feel like you feel it in. Heart full of joy, you just can't tell it in. Tanks on our gun, no, we won't ready. Cut up with scriptures and go Freddy. Got that milk for the babies, let's go get this cake, do you know better? I see what passion's hit in my blood, it pumps in my veins. There ain't no acting, tell the young recruits and false doctors. Up in the casket, rather down if you ask it. Trying to get away from all the pain, all the hate, from all the lanes and all the fake. Cut the grass, you see the snakes. Pick up the phone, I'm calling on ya. Yeah, I am the son, I'm calling on pops. I never run for nobody. I never run for no devil. Stay off my back, you know, brother. Deep down up in this jungle, I seen so many fumble. I seen them lose their faith. I seen them fade away. I seen some come and go. Just know I'm here to stay. I pray to the Father, the Daddy make a way. Bring on that line when they bustin' into it. Gotta say a little bit, so we tired of losing. New Torah movement. New Torah movement. Bring out that war machine, that be that hot with the tanks on the ground, and I really want a problem. New Torah movement. New Torah movement.
Shalom, shalom, family, peace and blessings. This is Elder Yara coming to you live, giving all praises and honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Wait for a few more people to come on in the room. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you care to do so, and you know that this channel is edifying, and you're able to hear a clean lesson and breakdown and teaching of the scriptures and how it's made relevant to our lives today. Please share, bring someone with you as you come into the room. Just one person. Have them like, share, and subscribe. There are many videos and lessons and teachings and breakdowns on this channel that we feel like is helpful and relevant and inspiring and educational for anyone who's looking to elevate their consciousness, build their spirit, and further their walk with the Most High. And so we're just waiting for a few more people to come on in. Sister Sandra, appreciate your peace and blessings to you, sis. Peace and blessings to you, sis. I see my good brother D-Red is in the building. I'm going to go through some information on here. tonight, this afternoon, I should say. Professor Lovely Lady, appreciate you for being in the building. Glad to see you. I am going to pin the link in the chat so that as let me see if I can do this. So as I began to wind this down, I was only going to do this in one part tomorrow, but as I'm going through the information, I definitely need to do this in 2 parts in order for it to be thorough. And so I am going to make this part 1. I'm going to make this part 1, and then tomorrow, the Most High say the same. I will be doing part 2 on this particular topic. And while we're waiting for a few more people to come in and join us, next coming Friday on the 9th, I will be on Sinetta TV, and I will be debating Brother Edward Dodge. Let me see what we got going on here. Brother Edward Dodge on, does Israel have 2 gods in the Bible, El and Yahweh? El and Yahweh. My position is that they do not. His position is that they do. And he's going to attempt to show that. And I am going to attempt to show that it's not. And so that's February the 9th. Please mark your calendars. It's going to be an interesting debate. I believe I'm going to be able to share some information that many of us have never seen before. And for those of you who have, you will enjoy the information that is being shared. Thank you, Professor Lovely Lady, for the announcement posted. It's definitely going to be one. Good brother Dodge has been making the rounds, sort of promoting this topic, among many other topics that he and I are probably going to discuss further after this particular conversation, debate, or discussion that we have on the 9th. We're going to be talking about does Yahweh have a wife in the Bible? We're going to be building up to that as well after this particular discussion on the 9th. Pretty much a lot of what he's espousing is being, it's nothing new for me. I think that he may have, just may have come into those particular understandings and revelations that he does about certain things concerning the Bible, concerning the scripture and the historicity of a lot of different things that he's studying, that he's trying to bring out. It's clear to me that, he's in gross error when it comes to a lot of his talking points. Some of those we're definitely going to see coming out next Friday on the 9th on Sinetta TV. Shout out to Sinetta. It's going to be a really very interesting topic and discussion. So I want to get into this afternoon want to get into this afternoon. I want to get into dealing with the topic of faithism, and dealing with the Oahspe spiritual literature, spiritualism of the Faithist movement, of the New Age movement. It's really a New Age movement. It's really what it is. So I'm going to be sharing some information today. I came across at least one of, their I guess a person who is a part of this New Age movement, his Faithist movement, brother by the name of Cosmic Cal. I actually tagged you in many of the videos, brother Cosmic Cal. If you're out there, I welcome you to come join this panel this afternoon. If you're out there, if you're listening, if anybody knows brother Cosmic Cal, goes by Cosmic Cal TV, as far as I know. And I think the brother Shalom, Selah Shalom, I think he had a debate with my good brother Moray Zion Lex a few months back on Sinetta TV as a one of the pay-per-view debates over there. There's also another sister with them. They have some type of this type of collaboration, like they call them, I guess, the Oahspe gang or something like that, something like that. They are, they're, making the rounds, but I wanted people to be really aware. I wanted people to be really aware of the deception, and what I feel is the deception, and what I feel is a work that is cultic. It is malignant to the consciousness and physical health and mental health of our people, and anyone who has attached themselves to this particular doctrine of teaching. I want to show sort of its origins, right? We have people in this community that I've heard talk about it, have touched on it, but have not. I don't feel like maybe they have not gone into really in depth on it. But I actually want to do and take a critical look at it and show the people where the burgeoning, or where the beginning, the roots of this particular New Age cult movement came from. It began. I want to show that on this afternoon, and I needed to do this in two parts. I thought about it. I thought I was going to be able to squeeze it all in on tomorrow, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to do this in two parts. So this part one is kind of impromptu broadcast in regards to this, but we're definitely going to chop it up. I'm about to share my screen. And let's he said Oahspe. Hey, I've looked at the breakdown of what this Oahspe is. It is a compound. It's created from two compound words or abbreviations, right? That this brother, who he calls himself, this brother John, right? Bellou Newbrough, conflated, right? You know, I'm calling him a brother because that's how they called him in this New Age movement. But we're going to clearly see what we're dealing with here, right? And I need people to be very careful and pay pay a lot of attention to attention to what we see that's going on here with this information, right? Because if you're not careful, and if you're not, I want to say this, it's very difficult, even if you think you're seasoned. And when I say seasoned, I mean studied for years. You think you have a foundation in your whether it's your Christian belief, whether it's your Israelite belief, whatever belief that you hold to or ascribe to. If you're not very careful, this particular branch of New Age occultism, right? This Oahspe Bible Faithist movement can be very deceiving. But I don't think people who are even involved in it to a degree really understand its core inception and where a lot of these ideas were formulated, right? I know some of the testimony from this gentleman Newbrough was that it was given to him by divine interventions, more so angelic beings guided his hands. You know, they ordered him to purchase a typewriter, which was a new machine at the time he began to scribe this particular writings, this Oahspe Bible, as they call it. And so it's angel worship, right? Which we know is prohibited in our scripture. Is angel worship. Is antithetical and theophoric to the Most High Yah, to the scripture, right? It is clearly an anti-Yah book. Clearly. Yeah, D-Red said you're talking about that Faithism mess from like 1850. Yes, sir. I had an exchange, and I don't know why people, when they hear me say things, I guess one of the followers, I guess I was on Sonet's channel, and one of the followers disagreed with something that I had said and I had brought out. I think it was in regards to possibly the reincarnation debate. And because of it, I found out that the reason why they took such an exception to what I was saying is simply because reincarnation is part of what's taught in this particular Faithist movement, right? And it really has a strong basis in the Hinduist belief of reincarnation, right? Much more so than what I heard from my good brother Captain Tazariot the other day, right? He tries to connect it in the biblical context, but in this Oahspe Bible and this Faithist movement is really based in a smorgasbord. It's a melting pot. It is a conflation of any religious or faith cosmogony you can think of. It's all mixed in and smashed together. So one can only imagine the confusion of the minds of the people who don't even know that what this book is doing and what these writings are doing is literally it's literally brainwashing is too light of a term. I'm just going to put it to you that way. Brainwashing is too light of a term. It is literally a mechanism, not just to control one's conscious and how you formulate ideas and thoughts and how one views themselves in the world and in the spirit realm or in the spirit world, right? But also what it means to be a human being, to just simply what it means to be human, right? The scariest part about it is that in all of that, it attempts to mask itself as a religion, as a religion or a movement or a thought free from mind control, free from controlling of one's body, mind, soul, and spirit, to the degree where it only leads back to one main theme. It only leads back to one main theme. And this main theme is what we're going to talk about in this lesson today. And so if there are anyone that is out there that has been involved with this faithist movement or is currently in it, reach out to them and have them come to here, because I do want to talk to them. I want to talk to them directly, right? And so I'm going to get into this lesson. Let me share it. Let me share my screen. Let's just get right into it. And I suggest you get your pens and your pads ready, or you can always go back if you subscribe to this channel and save it. Let me go back and make sure you guys can see it in a second. D-Red, it's so much, brother. I got to do it in two parts. But let me do this real quickly. And then I'm going to share my screen on this. And some of it is going to appear to sound redundant. But I want you guys to understand that it's not that it's redundant because I'm repeating the information. I'm going to be showing you contrast between this Oahspe Bible, and its New Age movement and certain theosophical societies, that these are all cookie cutter movements in this New Age movement. These are all branches, they're cookie cutters, And basically what they're doing is it's an attempt to to subvert the minds of people without drawing attention to itself, right? Presenting it as if it's a natural progression or form of light or light and consciousness that everyone is striving or should attain to achieve, right? And so we're going to get into shout out to you, Mongo Slade. So I had to do this in two parts. So this is part one today. So let me share my screen and get right to it. Let me see here. Let me see here. I want to make sure everybody's getting this. Please like, share, subscribe if you just came into the building. Yep, there it is. We're sharing now. Let me put this on wide screen so you guys can really see this information. We're going to be looking at videos, right? I have transcripts of testimonies of alleged victims, and I'm saying victims of this Oahspe or Faithism movement, right? We have eyewitness testimony. I'm going to be showing you some videos that this person made who escaped this cult, right? We're going to be talking about that. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. So as you see on the screen, it says the Molechian High Priest, John Bellou Newbrough, right? The Oahspe exposed. And let me tell you why I entitled this the Molechian High Priest. Because if we understand the worship of Molech, one of the things involved with the worship of Molech that we know was cited throughout Scripture in regards to this particular deity, this Canaanite deity of Molech, right? That it is a diabolical, satanic, if we want to use those terms, worshiping of a deity that requires the blood sacrifice of children, the ritual blood sacrifice, and the sexual orgies as a form of ritual worship to Molech with young children. And it took me a little bit of digging, and it took me a little bit of reading with comprehension to really put this thing together in a way so that we can connect the dots, so that we can really see what this is, right? So we can see what this is. And those who are espousing this religion, right, and bringing it to our communities, they should be looked at. They should be looked at the same way we look at, and I'm going to say it, herbophiles, pedophiles, preterists. If I'm saying that correctly, we should be looking at them with the same eye, with the same ire, because at the base of what I found and what I'm finding, I'm still discovering things. What I found out the base of this is that there's one single commodity, and I'm using these terms purposely. There's one single commodity in these theosophical societies. We're going to be talking about those as well. There's one single commodity that these New Age movements and that these faithist movements have. There's one single commodity, and it's infant children. Infant children. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video. Share it with someone who also doesn't know much about it, but we've been hearing about it, right? My brother Zion Lex has touched on it. I believe Judah Nazareth has touched on it before. Some of the other brothers have touched on it before, but it's more than just a racial connotation that it has to it, right? It's more so. It's more than that. This comes from a European, so we shouldn't trust it. It's much more diabolical than that. And so this is the reason why I entitled this The Molechian High Priest, John Bellou Newbrough, because we're going to connect the dots, right? We're going to get into the roots of what this is, the Oahspe exposed, right? So here it is, right? This is the Oahspe, the New Bible, in the words of Jehovah, right? And one thing you'll notice is a lot of these unconventional spellings of things, right? Unconventional spellings of things, which doesn't lead to anything that would have come down, in my opinion, as a divine revelation, right? The simple way that you're transposing letters in particular words and things to facilitate or to promote the fact that you're getting this divinely, right? And it says, and the angel ambassadors, a sacred history of the dominions, and of the higher and lower heaven on the earth, right? And then it talks about that in this particular text or in this particular writing, right, by John, who was the actual author of the Oahspe, and we're going to really get down into it. He talks about in here, and he makes the claim that this gives a history dating back at least 24,000 years. Now, if you're familiar with other guys that I talked about on this channel before, Billy Carson, right, who deals with those emerald tablets and deals with the Anunnaki foolishness, all of that stuff that we read, that they read it, and he's reading and heavy on and talking about Enki and Enlil, the Mesopotamian deities, and who which one was evil in the garden, and Yahweh was the evil deity actually in the Bible. He's the snake god. All of this foolishness that he talks about. If you listen to him, go back and listen to our breakdown on this channel and dealing with Billy Carson. Right, we have a 2 or 3 part series that we dealt with Billy Carson's foolishness. Same thing we're doing here, right? He also talks about the Anunnaki history that dates back 24,000 years. Now, these things are not coincidence. What these guys are doing with this new age material, and you'll see an explosion of it as we get into it, right? This explosion of this new age movement that connects itself to free will, free love, all of that foolishness, right? You'll see this connected. It's all in the same spiritual society systems, right? And all of these guys are connected to that. Alexander Snitchen that comes up with that deals with the term Anunnaki, where he gets that from. They're all with this same paradigm of this new age movement, where they claim that they were divinely inspired by some type of extraterrestrial or angelic beings, as they call it, because angels are not of this earth. So they use the term space astronauts, right? They all talk about some type of spacecraft or starship. It believe that the term starship doesn't even come into use until we get this Oahspe Bible in its literature. It talks about the starships, the star travel, how that Osiris's solar bark was nothing more than a fire ship or a starship, right? So we see all of this same stuff. It's just remixed with a different cover, but it's all the same. It's all the same on the inside. Why? Because it comes from one single root. It comes from one single root. And we're going to deal with that as we move further, right? So you see, this looks like, right? This Oahspe Bible, right? And here's a picture of the gentleman, Bellou, right? This is who he is, John Bellou Newbrough, right? And we're just going to get into it a little bit, and we're going to deal with three main themes, right? We're going to be talking about occultism, Faithism, or Faithis, and the Oahspe, right? Oahspe is the literature, right? The written literature, right? They call it a new Bible, right? The new Bible, the new Oahspe Bible. We're going to deal with that, right? So let's get it. So occultism, let's deal with that. The occult, in the broadest sense, is a category of esoteric supernatural beliefs and practices which generally fall outside the scope of organized religion and science, encompassing phenomena involving otherworldly agencies such as magic and mysticism and their varied spells. I'm telling you, people, they're dealing with the occult magic. This is nothing more than Harry Potter in the flesh. This is what you're really dealing with, because they actually operate in these various scenarios that you read, right? And so as you begin to go through this information, you'll see heavily where it's dealing with magic. Same thing. If you study anything ancient Kemet for too long, you're going to see that their priesthoods, many of their priesthoods and their priests were dealing heavily in magic spells, right? People often talk about the 42 negative confessions. Well, those 42 negative confessions, as they're as they're aptly written, right, or recorded as the 42 negative confessions, or the Book of the Dead, right, as many other people's refer to it. They're books of spells, and so these negative confessions are really spells, and that's what they are listed as in the book. They're translated the spell 125, right? And these spells were to give the deceased. They were written by scribes, if you could afford it. The scribes would write you out these spells, these magical spells, in a book that it would be buried with you. And in your journey through the afterlife, right, when you get to the weighing of the heart ceremony, where your heart or your mind or your consciousness had to be in balance with the weight of a feather, right? It could not be heavy. Your thoughts, your iniquity, the iniquities, the thoughts of your mind had to be in balance or light as a feather. It could not be, you could not have cruel intentions, not just the actions you perform, but the thoughts you perform, right? And so, and the thoughts that you have. And so as you would go before Asar, who is the god of the netherworld, the Greeks called him Osiris, but Asar, who is guard of the netherworld, or the king or the ruler of the netherworld. The netherworld is the place of death. It's a place of death, not a place of life. It's a place of death. And as you went before Asar, if you had any of these things in your mind, had you thought of any of these things, what these iniquities were in your heart, these types of sins or misdeeds were in your heart, if you had actually done these things in life, you would need the book of spells written by the scribe, that once you are addressed about these particular things in your life, you would have to read out of your book of spells in order to trick Asar, in order for him to allow you to pass through to the Sea of Reeds, to the Duat, right? To the Amduat, I believe, or whatever it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. To pass through the Sea of Reeds so that you can live, right? The life you always was intended to live in death, right? And so the book of the dead, they're just magical books. They're just magical spells. That's how they're written. That's what they believe. That's what they taught them, right? So you see this dealing with the same types of things, this mysticism, right? In many various spells. That's the basis of occultism. And we're going to see if this is involved in this faithless movement as well as in this Oahspe literature, right? So faithism, right? We're going to give a definition for faithism, right? Faithism is a religion based on Oahspe, a new Bible, a book written in 1882 by Bellou Newbrough. He was a dentist. The book is fairly lengthy, more than 3/4 the size of the Bible. Newbrough claimed to have written the book through automatic writing. So in other words, he claimed that the description that Newbrough gives is that he was waking at about 4 in the morning for about a year straight, for about 50 or 52 weeks, that he was awakened early in the morning, at least 3 to 4 in the morning, and he was told to begin to write what he was being told to write. And he said it wasn't until he was able to stand up and look in a window during almost at dawn, and he saw what it seemed like angels standing outside of the window, and they had connected to his hands. These beams of light were connected to his hands, and they were controlling his hands on what to write. And this happened every day for about 52 weeks, for about a full year or so, right? And so in the initial stages of this scrying or this possession of these spiritual beings, as he describes them, using his hands to type this information, they told him, you know what, you need to go get a typewriter. Now, at that time, around 1882, a typewriter was a new machine. It was a new invention, right? So he hustled to get a typewriter and brought it back, and he began to type what these spiritual beings or angelic beings were told him to write. And they gave him, according to him, for over the course of 52 weeks, this 24,000 year period, this history of the creation of the universe, who God really is, about the creation of man, right? Different things of that nature, right? And so this is it. And so let's continue, because it gets interesting, right? It says this is a spiritualist technique where a person slips into a trance. Now, we know what happens when it talks about when a person slips into a trance. They are no longer in control of their conscious mind. That's the definition. They're no longer in their conscious mind, and they're being controlled by an extraterrestrial being. Whether you call that an angel, right? That is not of this earth, right? But an extraterrestrial being. He's no longer in control of what he writes, of what he sees. So his visions, his writing, his typing. So basically, he never knows what he's typing until he's done typing it. So he goes into this trance, this spiritual plane where he's not aware of what he's typing, right? But he goes into a trance and he produces drawings. And some of these drawings are very telling. I'm going to show you some today. Writing and other effects without conscious effort. While the drawings and hieroglyphs of Oahspe were produced by hand, Newbrough claimed to have generated the text using a typewriter. The manner in which Oahspe was produced should make one extremely cautious about whatever it says. And I got some scriptures down here real quick. I just want to show you guys something. Let's pull this up. Leviticus 19 and 26. Right? And just let me read. Let me go down here. It says in the King James translation, it says, "Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment nor observe times." Do we understand this? This is why I say this is anti-Bible. This is Oahspe. Everything about it. But if you're not careful, because they use some of the same terminology like Jehovah, right? They even tell you they believe Yeshua was a real person, that he was a real person. They even talk to you about a satanic-like being. They'll mention a ruler of this earth called Corpo, Corpor, which is short. And you'll see a lot of this in this Oahspe text. So this entity, this being Corpo, Corpor, is short for corporal, like corporal discipline or corporal punishment. This being Corpo, Corpor, right, is one of the gods of this natural world, right? You will see a lot of this, but when you really start to look into the background of this gentleman, you'll see that as a child, he was brutally abused by his father. And much more so, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I want to get you to understand this. His mother tied to these new spiritualist movements. She spent a lot of their family money going to seances and taking this young man, John Bellou Newbrough, with her as a child. He stayed in the occultic environments. I want people to understand this. Let's go back. I also want to read you one more, because I can go through a couple of them. Let me read 2 Kings 17 and 17. You guys something here. And it says, "And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire and use divination and enchantments." Watch this. Listen to what the scripture says. It says, "And sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger." So they purposely perform these evil acts of enchantments and divinations, which is witchcraft, which is a form of witchcraft here, being mediums for spirits, that's divination, enchantments, writing spells, black magic, white magic, blue magic, red magic, whatever kind of magic, Heka magic, in ancient Kemet, whatever kind of magic it is, right? It says, and they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire. That is a direct correlation to Molech. As time and time again we read, even in the Canaanite religion, we see this also taking part in the Hindu religion. And I'll show you some of that iconography as well, where we see in Hindu them sacrificing children, babies, right? In all the wisdom of the Hindus, they're still sacrificing children. This is in their motifs, just as we read about the ancient Canaanites, passing their children through the fire. In other words, taking their infants and setting them upon the hot brazen altar of Molech and literally cooking those babies to death. It's exactly what they were doing. Cooking those babies to death. Some extra biblical accounts that gives us some description about what that scene was like for the mothers. That the wails or the crying, lamenting of the mothers were so loud in the land that they had to have drummers, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drummers beat the drums so loudly in order to drown out the sounds of the lamenting mothers whose fathers had taken them, their children from them, in order to sacrifice them or pass them through the fire or put them upon the burning fires of Molech. It was so egregious that we even have one account in the scripture that there was an enemy of Israel who was worshiping Molech. And as they were losing a battle against the Israelites, he took his own son as an adult son who was fighting alongside of him in the battle against Israel and passed his adult son through the fire, burned him alive unto Molech. But the commodity here that we see in this Canaanite religion, and this is why I tell people all the time, this is why the Most High entreated Joshua to go down into Canaan and destroy the Anakim. People want to talk about the Nephilim and this and this and this and that. Wanted to get that seed out of the earth. I often tell people, well, how did if the Anakim are Nephilim, how did that Nephilim seed survive the flood? Because if you're saying the Nephilim seed was still in the earth during the time of Joshua, it had to come through either a natural woman and a Nephilim man or a Nephilim being, or the entire world in flood. We have to talk about that. We have to talk about this understanding. But that's a whole other lesson, right? Y'all got to explain to me the Anakim. Y'all say that they were Nephilim or Nephilim during that time of Joshua. How did they survive the flood? You gonna tell me they was hanging on the trees and boards? Y'all, we got to talk about that one day. Joshua, I call it Joshua's liberation. Some call it Joshua's conquest. I call it Joshua's liberation. He goes down into Canaan. And the Most High says, listen, I'm delivering you guys. I'm taking you guys down there anyway, because not because Israelites, you're so righteous, because y'all stiff-necked too. He said, but the land The land has been defiled. How has the land been defiled? Why? Because the blood of the innocent children had been spilt on the ground. Had been spilt. And so Joshua's liberation was to go down in there and to stop that child sacrifice. And it needed to be done. It needed to be done. If not, it would have engulfed the known world at that particular time. So when they say Joshua's conquest, I call it Joshua's liberation. But let's continue. Let's get back to this lesson of information. Let me go down to the next one. I got two. Make sure I got the right one. Right. So the Oahspe. It's a new Bible which inspired a small spiritualist religion known as Faithism. We just read about Faithism. Followers of its teachings are known as Faithists. Faithism generally doesn't take Oahspe. This is very interesting. And see, this is where they began to deceive the people, right? Watch this. It says, Faithism generally does not take Oahspe to be inherent or literal. Right? It doesn't take it to be inherent without error, or it doesn't take it to be literal. Why would they use a book to support their New Age movement, right? This Oahspe Bible, why would they use it to support their Faithism when they don't believe that it's not without error or that it's even literal to a degree? Why would they take that route? It's a tactic that they use so that when people began to read and they began to study for themselves about what's actually in this diabolical book, this demented, demonic book, right? This Oahspe Bible, that the thing that espouses, they can separate themselves from it, but yet in secret, yet practice what it believes. And I'm going to show you that that's exactly what they have done as we get further in this, right? It says Faithism teaches that rather than literal, rather they draw inspiration and guidance from it. Faithism teaches that one's place in the afterlife is determined by how well they serve others on earth. Another point of deception. Now to those who are not seasoned, that sounds great. It sounds good, doesn't it? But watch this. It says certain behaviors, such as eating meat, will automatically place a person in the lowest of several different heavens. So eating meat of any kind, so they're vegans. We get that, right? Right now, we get that they're vegans, right? Being a vegan or not being a vegan or someone that eats meat places in a lower part of heaven, right? So how they have it is they have these tiers of heaven that people are assimilated into based on their behaviors, right? Based on their behaviors. Watch this. Listen to this. Now, remember, I just read, it says, Faithism teaches that one's place in the afterlife is determined by how well they serve others on earth, right? Now, watch this. This is where they start. See, they always give you that little part that sounds sweet, and most people get stuck there, but they don't continue to read for understanding. Now, watch what they say here. They say, certain behaviors such as eating meat will automatically place a person in the lowest of several different heavens. Evil behavior will result in an experience much like hell. According to Faithism, however, even the worst souls will gradually progress into the higher realms. Even the worst souls. So you mean to tell me that in this Faithism movement, this New Age movement, supported by this Oahspe literature, that I can, without remorse, I can, without consciousness, hurt children, women, men. I can do any type of imaginable evil that any demonic spirit or spirit has me to do. I could do all kind of manner of evil, and I can still, right? I can still gradually progress into the higher realms. How do I produce this? How do I do this? How do I get from level to level to level? Through reincarnation. Do y'all see y'all hear the demonic wool that they attempt to pull over people's eyes? So through reincarnation, if I'm evil in this life, I'll die. I'll be reincarnated so I could do the works or serve the people on earth over again. If I don't get it right that time, I'll die and come back again, and I'll die and come back again, and I'll die and come back again. So I can leave this one earth is Charles Manson, and I can be reincarnated. I do that reverse. I can die on this earth and be Caligula. If y'all don't know who Caligula is, a Roman emperor who done all kind of manner of sexual orgies and murderous and deaths, and came up with all different types of way to kill people and you know, his own family members and different things like that, and murder and torturing people. Or I can live my life that way, die, come back as Adolf Hitler, kill up a bunch of more folks, don't get it right that time, die again, come back as Charles Manson, die, come back again as Jeffrey Dahmer, and then maybe one day another life I'll die and come back, and maybe I'll come back as Pope John Paul III. Do y'all hear the insanity in that? This is why I say these particular teachings that we hear expect on reincarnation and where they took these roots from and how they espouse this stuff only opens a doorway for people not to really consider about how they live their present life. If I can die without any true repentance, if I can die without attempting to live my life according to what thus saith Yah, or if I can live or I can die and live my life any so way I choose, I can take on the mantra, do as you will. I can take on that mantra. I can do what, there's nothing that holds me to a sense of ethics. There's nothing that holds me to a sense of morality that I have to show in any present life. Because if I don't do it this time and get it right at this time, I'll just leave here and I'll come back and maybe I'll try to do it again. But guess what? You got some folks telling you, well, you won't even remember their former life. But you just better make sure you're getting it right this time. That's all it is, Cassandra. It's reincarnation, only dressed up in a different environment. 100%. 100%. This is the only way you're able to live an evil life and come back and live another evil life, come back an even lesser evil life, and come back and live a lesser evil life until you finally get to a level where now you're enlightened. Forget all the other people you done unalived and caused death and brought death and harm and destruction to in all your other previous lives. Forget all that. There's no consequence for that other than I just got to take this test over again. I got to do a retake. Take 2. Like this some Hollywood movie. This is the insanity. And this is why this type of teaching that this Oahspe and this Faithism cultic religion teaches, this is why it is so very detrimental to our people, and important that we understand this when it comes around. Not just understand it, yeah, I heard about it. There's a new Bible. Some people believe it, some people don't. To each his own. It's not that simple, people. That's the issue is that what it grooms, how it grooms you. Remember I said earlier, the commodity here is young children. That's the commodity. That's the commodity here. And we're going to show you why that's the commodity here. Watch this. I'm going to continue. It says, according to Faithism, however, even the worst souls will gradually progress into the higher realms. You can only do that if you believe in some form of reincarnation. The book also talks about a lost continent in the Pacific Ocean. It's in the Oahspe Bible. But you don't hear these guys on Sinetta TV and these other going around here and talking about, Atlantis or whatever they call it. They got some kind of name for it. Right? This is the same thing that you hear that Billy Carson teaches about the Emerald Tablets in Anunnaki. He talks a lot about Atlanteans, the Atlanteans. It's the same New Age movement foolishness. It's just same flavor, different brand. That's all this is. It's occultism at its finest. But it's done on purpose. It's a purposeful design to try to trick people. And listen, Billy Carson says it all the time. Even when he's talking about the Emerald Tablets, the compendium of the Emerald Tablets. I just gave him a shameless plug on his book. The compendium of the Emerald Tablets. He often talks about how the God of the Bible is actually the evil God. Same thing in this Oahspe book. As you begin to read this literature, it talks about how the God of the actual Bible is the evil God. He's the one doing all the tricking and the murdering and the slandering. He's the trickster. Same flavor, different brand. Let's continue. The Oahspe, a new Bible, is typical of spiritualist literature, which was a precursor. Listen to what I'm saying. This was a precursor to the modern New Age movement. Let's talk about what the modern New Age movement is, because these are some terms, even if you have to go back and listen to it, that we have to get true understanding on, right? So what is the New Age movement? The expression New Age came into existence in the 1970s and 1980s. So don't let these folks make you think that this stuff has been always since the beginning of time. Watch this. It was promoted by the circulation of the New Age Journal and a book by Mark Satin called New Age Politics, Marilyn Ferguson's best-selling Aquarian Conspiracy was a presentation of the social agenda, philosophical vision of the New Age. Ferguson's writing attained status as the unofficial scripture of the movement. As Russell Chandler, a writer of the Los Angeles Times, wrote in Understanding the New Age, if Ferguson wrote the New Age Bible, Shirley MacLaine is its high priestess. Now, Shirley MacLaine was an American actress who was involved heavily in this New Age movement. She's the one that really in Hollywood began to popularize or brought it out to the media about being reincarnated and reincarnation, right? In Shirley MacLaine's book she wrote, Out on a Limb, chronicles her reluctant conversation to New Age belief. This book describes her travels and studies, which include science fiction-like dimensions, out-of-body travel, contact with extraterrestrial beings, trans-channeling, seances. Y'all gonna hear a lot of this stuff, right? And a guided tour of the unseen world. MacLaine's second book, Dancing in the Light, tells about her reach into the world of yoga, reincarnation, there it is again, crystal power, Hindu mantras, I talked to y'all about Hindu, and past life recall experiences mediated through acupuncture, another Chinese procedure, right? Her spirit guides informed her that each individual is God. And she passed along the wisdom that the person is unlimited. One only has to realize it. New Age thinking has its roots in Eastern mysticism, which attempts to bypass the mind. When our scripture tells us to be what? A sober mind. They don't want you to think. They do not want you to use the brain the Most High gave you. They don't. Which attempts to bypass the mind. There's a new organ of perception, the third eye. And we've dealt with that. But where do we see this all-seeing eye, this third eye? This Hinduism, this Kundalini, the eye of Horus, the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra. We see people. Y'all recall we saw brother what's his name? Polite, walking around with the little mascara drawn eye of Osiris emblem around his eye. Y'all understand? These people are dealing with New Age mysticism, magic, demon worship, spirit worship, reincarnation, occultism, all this Kemetic yoga crap. Crystal power, channeling spirits, trances and seances, communicating with the dead. This is what this stuff is about. Let's get back to it. Much of what the book advocates, we're talking about the Oahspe Bible, quote unquote Bible, much of what the book advocates is in direct contradiction to biblical principles. First and foremost, the entire concept of a new approach to spirituality, anti-biblical. Jude 1, verse 3. I want to read that real quick. Jude 1 and 3. It says, Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the compensation it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. So there's nothing new that's coming along down the pipe. They call it the New Age movement, right? There's nothing new here, right? There's no new revelations, no new interpretations, no personal interpretations, right? In addition, Oahspe advocates mandatory veganism. Mandatory. Mandatory. I'm sorry. Let me see. So my screen, is my screen? It's sharing. Oh, it wasn't sharing on the New Age movement. I'm sorry. But mandatory veganism. It also claims many religions are needed for human progress. This is what the Oahspe proclaims. You need all manners of religions. Right? All manner of religions are needed. This is what it espouses. It teaches universalism. It teaches work-based salvation. The Oahspe and Faithism also claim that God or Yah is merely an advanced spiritual being. So they claim the God of the Bible is only an advanced consciousness. That's it. That Yah is only an advanced consciousness. That it is. An advanced spiritual being elected to his position for a limited time. So they don't put a time stamp on when the Most High Yah got to step down so somebody else can take his place. And somebody can simply say, well, you know what? That's just what y'all believe versus what they believe. Okay. Let's have that discussion. Let's go to 1 Chronicles 16 and 36. It says, blessed be Yahweh, God of Israel, forever and ever. Forever and ever. And all the people said, amen, and praised Yahweh. Or praise the mighty one. Or praise God Almighty. Now, many people will say, see, there goes that word, amen again. That has nothing to do with Amun Ra. It's not referring to a Kemetic deity. It simply just means, so be it, or we agree. Or we agree as a whole. We agree in the Hebrew language. Right? So our scripture here in 1 Chronicles tells us, here, I want to show it to you. There it is. Blessed be the Lord your God of Israel forever and ever. And all the people said, amen, and praise the Lord. We go back. And then let me read Isaiah 40 and 28. Isaiah 40 and 28 says this. when the Oahspe says the Yah's time is limited, right? He got to punch the clock, right? It says, "Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding." You cannot comprehend who Yah is. But when we look into the Oahspe, they want to tell us that the Most High was elected to his position for a limited time. You understand what we're dealing with here? Now let's talk about it here. I'm going to share my screen on something. Let me put up the fair use here. Let me put up the fair use banner here.
Osiris made his godhead to consist of three persons. First, himself, as the fountain of the universe, whose name was unspeakable. Second, Baal, his only begotten son, into whose keeping he had assigned the earth and all mortals thereof.
Hold on
And
one second.
third, Ashtoreth, his virgin daughter, into whose keeping he had assigned life and death, or rather the power of begetting and the power to cause death with mortals. For Osiris was the most cunning of all the self-gods. For thus he appropriated the triangle of the Faithists. Thus appropriated the names and powers of the Lord God, the false, now in hell, for only through...
All right. Oh, snap. All right. Y'all do me a favor. Put a 1 in the chat if you're able to hear this video. I'm going to share it again.
It was built after the manner of heaven. That is to say, modeled after Sanctu, in Horde, but more magnificent than Sudga's kingdom, and far larger. The arena way was 5,000 lengths of a man across. So that...
Okay. So what we're reading here is one of the books attributed to Osiris. And what you hear is they try to use a type of Trinitarian type belief between Osiris, Azura or Azura Mazda, and Isis. And I believe also within this, you're going to hear something about Astaroth. So they're mixing ancient Kemetic deities along with ancient Near Eastern Mesopotamian deities and creating this religious scenario, right? So I'm going to try to play it again. I see it spin. I'm trying to play it again. See what happens. Okay, hold on. Okay. Let me see if you guys are able to see that. I'm gonna share my screen again. For some reason, don't want to let me play it. Let's try again. All right, I think we got it right there. See if I got it. For some reason, I don't see it. All right, there it is. There it is. Now let's try to listen to that again. All right, here we go. So what we see here, let me go back, and what we've been listening to is chapters. Hold on. Yeah. So that's no. So what we've seen and what we've been hearing is that they're back up there. What we've been seeing and what we've been hearing is that their literature ascribes to the fact that Osiris was a real person. And in believing that Osiris was a real person, they believe he was a real king or a god on earth. But that he had this connection with Astaroth as well as his son, whom he didn't refer to as Horus, but he referred to him as Baal. Right? So according to the Oahspe, something's going on here. Let me see what this is. So according to Oahspe, Osiris was the father of Baal, and Baal was the son of Astaroth. Now, this is what their Oahspe will teach. Someone put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me speaking, because for some reason I can't hear myself. Anybody put a 1 in the chat. Because for whatever reason, I cannot hear myself. Thank you, Sister Cassandra. And so this is the mixing of religions, but it's done this way in beliefs, in spiritual beliefs. It's done this way to confuse the people, to make you think that the text has something for everyone. You can't dismiss it if you follow Osiris because Osiris is there. If you follow Astaroth, you can't dismiss it because Astaroth is there. If you follow Baal worship, you can't dismiss it because Baal is there. Right? And that's part of the deception. It tries to make the person think that's reading it that it's giving some type of honor and respect to their individual belief system. It's not pitting one against the other, only when it comes to understanding of Yahweh. He is God for only a particular period of time. He's not God forever. He got to punch the clock. He's going to have to step down after a while. And a new God is going to be ascended to the throne. See, this is the deception that this work gives, right? And let me share my screen again. Right. Let me go back here. I want you guys to pay attention to something. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if the video didn't play. But we'll get back to it. I don't know, something's wrong with it. I'll get back to it. But let's get to this, right? And what I want y'all to see is something very telling here, right? This is a page from the book of Faithism, right? In the Oahspe Bible, the book of Faithism, right? And I want you to pay attention to the imagery here. If you notice, this is the winged sun disk, right? You have a depiction here of Semiramis. And how do we know this is not Semiramis, like it? Nimrod. How do I know this is a depiction of Nimrod? Right? because we have him here slaying the beast with the club. He also has a mace here. They also attribute this. Look at this, these wings here. The sun this here with the serpent. I'm going to show y'all something else too. Y'all see the Hathor, the bull worship there? Right? Y'all see the sign. This is the sign of, I believe, the Aries. Right? And then you see this fish here, right? Which actually is not the sign of Yeshua, but this is the age of Aquarius. And if you notice here, you see the peace sign here, right? Then it has the wing here and the arms, but look more closely what I want you guys to really pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to here. And I hope I can make it bigger. But if you look in between, right underneath this wing right here, on the left, and in between the lion, you're going to see the Messianic sign, the Messianic symbol, the compass. You see it. Y'all see that? The Messianic sign right there. All of these New Age movements, in some way, form, or fashion, filters its way through Messianic beliefs. If anyone watched my debate with Captain Tazariak, and I was showing him, he didn't understand why I was doing it. I really think he didn't understand it. I was showing him the roots of the belief system, the spiritualist belief system that they're espoused to, that came down through, especially with reincarnation, that was passed on to them, and that One West doctrine was came through them, espoused to them through Freemasonry. He didn't really understand why I was showing Freemasonry and why I was showing the connection that all of the founders of that One West doctrine religion, when he had that big One West, founding, on his jacket, that how all of that filtered down from the commandment keepers, from going back further from Frank S. Cherry to William Crowdy to the commandment keepers, right? Through the first ISUPK, all the way down through ISUPK now with General Yohana, all the way down to this brother here, the good brother Tazariak, all of that filtered down through Freemasonry. And as I was showing that they all were tied to Freemasonry, those leaders and founders of that One West religion and doctrine, here you see again here with that new spiritualist movement, one of the founding beliefs is reincarnation. Here it is again. Here you clearly see the Freemason symbol. Now it says John Bellou Newbrough was a 33rd degree Mason, a vegetarian and an avid student of the world's religions. Right? You can't tell me everywhere I look and I start looking at these spiritualist occultist practices, at the head of it somewhere is a 33rd degree Mason. Somewhere in there. It's all filtered through that Hermes Trismegistus. Even when you listen to guys like Billy Carson, somehow he finds a way to connect that Atlantean religious practice, that Thothian religious practice, that Anunnaki religious practice, that it was furthered and espoused and brought to the forefront by some 33rd degree Masons, some Freemasonry. We've seen all the graphics and we can see all the connections and all the cosmogony of the practice of Freemasonry, along with Hermes Trismegistus, through Aleister Crowley, all of these spiritualists that are operating. Don't be deceived by just saying, oh man, no, they cool, they helped me out of it, they helped me to get out of a speeding ticket. Don't be deceived. Oh, they just, man, they helped me find my, listen, they helped me get out of a jam one time. Those gifts or those favors are simply just to tie you in to a right where you do. Listen, you're not just riding a goat, whether you're literally doing it or not. You're not just riding a goat just to simply say, hey, I appreciate for all you've done for me. It is a ritual practice of spiritualism that has its connection all the way back to Baphomet and the goat deity Shamendes, the goat of Shamendes, going all the way back to ancient Kemetic practices. There is a central spiritual system here that is running in parallel on the earth to the spiritual system of the Most High Yah, as we understand it and believe it to be in the Bible. There is a connection there. And it's filtered through and masked through Freemasonry. People say, I don't understand what's the problem with Freemasonry. Yeah, because you just don't understand. You simply don't understand. But let's continue. It says about Bellou Newbrough, of the writer of the Oahspe Bible. It says he was an inventive man and a holder of numerous U.S. patents, including patents on calculation devices, manufacturing of rubber, artificial teeth, a furnace pot, a car for railway, ventilators, and exercising apparatuses. Born on June 5th, 1828, he died April 22nd, 1891, at the age of 63. Another thing you'll find out too, a lot of these spiritualists, a lot of these people that are involved in this, they don't live long lives. They die at very early ages, right? It says Newbrough gained popularity as America's greatest prophet and is best known for his work in the Oahspe, a New Bible, which he claimed was the result of automatic writing. For more details, you can refer back to the earlier part of this video, right? The spirits, the Oahspe deception. The spirits were very prolific. Oahspe is about 4/5 the size of the King James Bible. We talked about that earlier, and more than twice the size of the Book of the Mormons. Other texts archived as sacred texts, authored via automatic scribing during the 19th century when this stuff was included the Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua or Jesus the Christ, and clothed with the sun. This was a movement. And y'all can see the citation here at the bottom. This was a movement that occurred, a spiritualist movement that exploded, this New Age movement that exploded at this time. And you'll see the clear deception of it. And they all speak the same. The Oahspe deception, typical spiritualist literature, which was a precursor to the modern New Age movement. Much of what the book advocates is in direct contradiction again to biblical principles. And we went through this. First and foremost, the entire concept of a new approach to spirituality is anti-biblical, right? It advocates mandatory veganism, claims many religions need it, and the danger of promoting self-righteous works rooted in salvation. We went through that. Now let's get to the part where I feel like it's the most detrimental part, one of the most detrimental and one of the most saddening aspects of this faithist movement, this New Age movement, this Oahspe Bible, which is only a feel-good text or a text that has really no knowledge in it. It's only a remixing of things that have already been presented in previous texts. It's just remixed. There's no new revelation within it. If you read it, none at all whatsoever. But this is one of the most telling aspects of it is right here. I want you guys to look at, I wish I can make it bigger somehow, but I want you guys to take a look at this. I'm going to read this really quickly. It says the orphan utopia. Remember, I told you guys that there was an underlying commodity in all of this New Age movement and spiritualist system. And it's the children. And this is why I entitled it the Molechian Priesthood. We talked about the children being passed through the fire in the scripture. We talked about children being worshipped to Molech, right? And this is why I named it this. Pay attention here, people. It says the Orphean Utopian, the Shalom Colony, reproduction of an undated painting by John Bellou Newbrough, lost in a flood while in storage at El Paso, Texas. I'm going to explain this picture here. It says the complex iconography of the painting said 17 feet tall. Talking about this painting here that was painted by John Bellou Newbrough, the author of the Oahspe Bible. This is his painting. And it shows the complex iconography. It says the painting was 17 feet tall and 10 feet wide. Did y'all hear that? The painting was 17 feet tall and 10 feet wide. Right? It depicted a central tenet of Oahspe's theology. Right? That Christianity or the belief in Christ, Yeshua, was founded when a powerful spirit usurped and distorted the teachings of the Jewish prophet Joshua, or who they also referred to as Jesus. Let me read to y'all that again. Right? The complex iconography of the painting said to be 17 feet tall and 10 feet wide. That's huge. I'm an artist, a painter. That's huge. That is huge. That's a wall. Right? Depicted a central tenet of Oahspe's theology that Christianity, the teaching of Christ, was founded when a powerful spirit usurped and distorted the teachings of the Jewish prophet that they called Joshua or Yeshu or Jesus, right? And we're going to talk about this orphan utopia called Shalom Colony, right? Let's read this article. Fair use. We're going to read some of this. Should be sharing right now. I'm going to be sharing some of this so y'all see it on the screen. There we go. The Orphan Utopia by John Bellou. This is John Bellou Newbrough's Desert Colony by Reed McConnell. And here's a depiction of that picture. I wanted y'all to really see this up close so I can really break it down to you. Now, this is that 17 foot tall, 10 foot wide painting that Newbrough did. Now, pay attention to what you see here, family. I want y'all to pay attention. If you look here, you see this Luciferian priest, and look what he has on. He has on the goat head gear. If anyone's familiar with the occult and the Baphomet priest or the Luciferian teachings, that is the worship of Lucifer, they wear this gear here, this horn or goat head like crown. And as you see here, he's holding in a sacrificial knife. This imagery here is to be one of who he calls Jashu or Jesus. And here he's holding a book in his hand. Probably a depiction of the Oahspe he's holding here. But it's kind of faded here also. And then you see in this hand, he's holding a sword. He's holding a sword in his hand. If you see here very faintly, there's a man, a male figure here with the beard, but it also has the ears of a cattle or a goat with horns as well. This is a depiction of who they claim to be the God of the Bible. And here, what you see here is a depiction. You have this swan-faced entity here with a human body, but as you can see, it has wings. So this is the depiction of an angel. Now, this is John Newbrough's, right? But it means something because I want you guys to pay attention. Now, look underneath here. And this is what I wanted to show y'all. Look at the feet of that priest. Look at the feet of that priest. He has goat hooves. Do y'all see that? Look at his feet right there. Let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something. That's why I say you have to be very careful and pay attention to what these guys do and what they're espousing. And so as you find people coming into the community, like those, like say that Salem Shalal, whatever his name is, and Cosmic Cow, y'all got to realize the people that we're dealing with here. I want to show y'all something. Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up. Share this tab. Right? I want to show y'all something here. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. Right? Wait for it to pop up on the screen. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. And you see here, this says Baphomet. And it says an invented idol. But watch this. I don't think most people will even realize this. It says Baphomet invented pagan or Gnostic or Gnostic idol or deity that the Templars were accused of worshiping and that were embraced by various occult and mystic writers. The first known mention of Baphomet was in a letter written in 1098 by Anselm of Ribemont, describing the siege of Antioch during the Crusade. Anselm stated that the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, called upon Baphomet. Most scholars believe that the word refers to Muhammad, the founder of Islam. In 1307, Philip IV of France had every Templar in France arrested, accusing them of such heretical acts as idolatrous worship of a bearded male head called Baphomet. Look at this, people. I told y'all, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. It says, by the 19th century, Freemasons had also been falsely, that's what it says here, but Freemasons had also been said to worship Baphomet. Now, why do we have John Newbrough, the Oahspe Bible, giving us a priest dressed as Baphomet? One of his paintings that he claims to have done while in a trance-like state. In one of the chapters of this book, the book of Faithism, it shows us imagery that also has Freemason symbolism on it. We know, I just read to you that he was also a 33rd degree Mason. Now here it is again. He's connecting the imagery of this painting, y'all again, on the imagery of this painting again, this painting this is his painting again, showing the depiction of a Baphomet high priest. A Baphomet high priest. Here it is in his painting. This is the guy that created the Oahspe Bible. Look at it. If you didn't pay attention to and knew that he painted this, you see clearly here it has hind legs like a goat and hooves. It has the goat ears and the goat horns. It also has the sacrificial blade with the depiction of what they call Joshua or Jesus here, but also look at this entity with the white beard here, which is the depiction of the God of the Bible, also depicted with goat ears and horns, just as the goat of Shemendes or the Baphomet. That's also, we read that the Freemasons were also accused of worshiping Baphomet. And here it is. It's often used in those who follow occult and mystic practices. This Baphomet image and deity. This is what this Oahspe is connected to, family. I want y'all to really understand that. I really want y'all to understand it. That's why I say this is why they try to separate themselves from the Oahspe Bible, the faith in the Faithist movement. It's their literature, it's their book, but they try to put make this caveat. Well, we don't take it literally. We don't take it all literally. but your imagery and everything that you talk about is in there. Everything you base your faith on, faith is in the book created by your founder. He also didn't just give these spiritual books or writings as he did with the Oahspe. He also left what we're looking at on the screen, what he came to these spiritual paintings, that as he went into a trance or was being channeled by another spirit, he began to paint the truth of the earth according to him, right? Under the influence of another spirit. And clearly we see here this image of Baphomet in his painting. Y'all see it. Now look what's happening here. Look at the people underneath here that's being crushed underneath the power and the authority of this Baphomet and this fake depiction of Yeshua and Yahweh along here with this duck bill face like angel being, that both are carrying what is depicted to be the Oahspe. And if you can see back here, it's very faint because it's a very old depiction. It's very faint. But you can see other spiritual beings behind them all, also carrying this Oahspe Bible. Right? But that's not all to the painting. I want to show you something else very telling. Look again in this book here. You see a cherub being here that has wings. It's a lion face. And look at what it's doing. It's standing on the cross. You have another depiction here that is also looking down upon the cross. But look at these figures here. You see a stairwell back here that leads up a throne figure. We're going to talk about what that is. But look at the depiction of these persons that are present here, right? And so what we have here is a reproduction of an undated painting by John Bellou, lost in the flood while in storage in El Paso, right? We read that. It says, sometimes it's referred to as the three worlds. The painting depicts the three realms outlined in the Oahspe. So the Oahspe tells us that this is one realm. This is another realm of these doubted and defeated people. And this is another realm. Right? Now let's continue. It's referred to as the three worlds painting. The painting depicts the three worlds outlined on Oahspe. The work's lower third, where the skeletons can be seen, that's now here, depicts corpor. Remember I was telling you about corpor, or this divinity like deity he calls corpor, which is short for corporal, as in corporal punishment or corporal judgment. And that's why you see these images here of people who have been judged. All you see is their skin and bones. It says it also depicts the false God Christ figure, which occupies the middle region, and it's called atmospheria. He does this a lot. He just transposed letters in a lot of names and things that he names. He says, and now the faded upper portion represents etheria. So this portion, or the higher heavens. So this portion here is considered etheria. This blank space here, where you see these people down trying to hear, this is the atmosphere, right? Versus the realm of corpore, which you see down here, right? Think about what's going on in the mind and the spirit, right? Man, absolutely. No, all angels do not have horns. D-Red, absolutely. We do have to have an occultism conversation in America, Bill. Occultism in America. It's alive and well. And it's running parallel with the system. A lot of stuff you guys see in Hollywood. Listen, a lot of stuff y'all hear Cat Williams talking about is a part of these occultic practices, is a part of this occultism that he's exposing in this industry. It ain't just Hollywood doing this, is a religious occultic ritual practice. If y'all don't understand what Cat Williams is talking about, this is occultic practices. That's what he's exposing. A lot of people not really getting that. He just ain't spilling the tea on Hollywood. No, he's talking about occultic practice. This is why even in that interview he does, he talked a lot about his faith in the Most High Yah. That's what he often talked about. He was saying, look, I see this and I see that. That's what he's often talking about. We got to understand this, that this occultism is alive and well. But let's deal with this. Watch this. It says, when the angels appeared to John Bellou Newbrough early one morning in 81, he was nothing if not well prepared. A dentist, a spiritualist. He spent the last 10 years purifying himself for supernatural contact by abstaining from meat, bathing twice a day, rising before dawn. The visit was expected. And there's even some attestations of his life where he even abstained from sex, even from his wife. He didn't even have relations with his wife for years. 4 years, I think, even until the time he died. He refused to have sex with his wife. It says the angels wanted him to buy a typewriter, a newfangled device. Newbrough described typing as writing by keys like a piano. In a letter to the Boston Spiritualist Journal, the Banner of Light, that would allow him to transcribe their account of the world's true spiritual history. He obeyed, and for the next 50 weeks, the angels visited him in New York City. Go figure. Apartment every morning before sunrise, taking in sessions that lasted exactly 15 minutes. By the end, Newbrough had produced a 900-page manuscript called the Oahspe, a history of world religion that exposed their lies and elucidated their fundamental interconnections. The dictating angels were nothing if not thorough. To supplement the text, they provided Newbrough with images of religious leaders, which he painted in the dark. Among those reproduced in the 1891 edition of the Oahspe are the austere, mustachioed Zarathustra, right? Or Zarathustra. And if you're not familiar with this, where he's getting these names from, this is an allusion to Zoroastrianism, or the prophet of Zoroaster. This is where he's getting. That's what I'm saying. He's not creating anything new. They keep saying a new Bible. He's just remixing a lot of pagan and occultic beliefs and meshing them all together. Right? So whoever these angels or these demonic forces are, they're not giving him any new revelations. They're not. He's not receiving any new revelations here. He's just remixing, as Sister Cassandra been saying the whole time. He's just remixing and repackaging that what he's picked up from other people in other places. He says, it says with a cherub grinning behind his left shoulder and a serenely smiling Confucius, hair stroked by a ghostly figure, while an enormous eye floats in the clouds above him. These luminaries appear alongside diagrams and illustrations, everything from language trees to astronomical models to illustrations of ancient temples. Newbrough claimed to have copied them according to the angel's instructions from technical books. Now, he didn't tell you he saw Zoroaster, he saw Confucius, right? This guy mind is all over the place. Mind all over the place. Right? Here's a picture of one of the colonies, right? The Shalom colony in 1885. Now, this is a colony he established, which was not a new idea. It was not a new idea. I'll show you where he got the idea from, but it was not a new idea. He established another colony so that he can have this faithist movement, so he can practice this. And remember what I told you, why I named it the Molechian Priesthood, and that the common denominator in all of this throughout these New Age movements, no matter which one you pick, all of these New Age movements, the common commodity, the most important thing is the children. I'm going to show you infant children, right? It says in 1885, the handwritten caption along the bottom margin identified both structures in the camp, such as Octagon House and the temple, which was likely the first buildings erected at the site, as well as natural landmarks, including Robledo Peak, known at the time as Mount Venus. All images courtesy New Mexico State University. He's now in Mexico. It says, although spiritualism was known and largely accepted in New York of the time, seances were popular among the rich. Newbrough had been hosting them in his apartment on West 34th Street for decades. Some quarters received Oahspe with hostility. A new Bible was a bit harder to reconcile with Christianity than simple communication with spirits, especially when that Bible claimed that Jesus was actually a crafty angel named Luamong, who had tricked the other angels and minor deities into electing him chief divinity of the universe. Did y'all hear that? A New York Times article from 1883 describes an interaction between Newbrough and a heckler in an early meeting introducing Oahspe. Goes like this. Dr. Newbrough states, "You are out of order. We do not open discussion." Mr. Lightburn, the heckler, says, "Do you wish the old Bible to be thrown aside? If Christianity is not true, I want to know what is." Dr. Newbrough states, "You are out of order, sir." Mr. Lightburn says, "Of course I am. Everybody is. You had no right to make such announcements if you cannot substantiate them. Give me my hat." What was most fascinating the newspapers, though, was Newbrough's intention to found a colony. Oahspe enjoins his followers, called Faithists, to gather orphans. Y'all hearing what I'm saying? You're not a Faithist. You're not a Faithist if you're not practicing the tenets of Faithism or of the Faithists, especially if you claim to be an adherer of the Oahspe. This is one of the tenets. This is one of the things that they espouse to do as a part of this movement. Listen, the Oahspe enjoins its followers. It's in the book. It's in the Oahspe book. It enjoins the followers. It encourages the followers, called Faithists, to gather orphans and raise them to be independent, vegetarian, and spiritually pure as preparation for leadership of a new world order. Now, for some of you who are operating on a low spiritual conscious plane, that might sound as if that's good intentions to you. But show you that this is a part of that Molechian ritual priesthood. What we read about, passing the children to the fire. What we read about converting children or raising children up to believe in what I call these covert Luciferian New Age doctrines. That's what we clearly are dealing with here. And you said, Brother Yara, how you jumping? You just can't jump to conclusions like that. Let's continue. It says the New York Times reported that all that was asked of the members was that they should buy tracts of land in order that the headquarters might be established and people removed to them from the profanity of the world. And at the time of the article's publication, the search was already underway for a site in the southwestern desert. Shalom, as Newbrough ultimately named the colony, would be a religious community and a refuge. Watch this, for thousands of indigent, what? Oh man, let me go back. What did I? Let me go back to that. Let me stop playing. For thousands of indigent, what? Babies. So he's buying tracts and tracts and tracts of land and treating his followers in order so that they could create these colonies, not for mass adults, but to house and refuge thousands of indigent or poor or destitute babies. Y'all say, but Elder Yara, isn't that a good thing? He's trying to help poor children. He's trying to help the orphans. Let's go a little further. Far from the corruption of cities, this is what he's saying, as they prepared to leave a year later, the New York Times reassessed the colonists' aim. The Faithists have given no intelligible. This is from the New York Times at the time. It says they reassessed the colonists' aims for wanting all these tracts of land and these refuge for these poor babies and orphans. It says the New York Times reassessed that the colonists' aims, or the Faithists, have given no intelligible idea of what they want or what they seek to accomplish. Nobody's talking. Nobody's saying why they want to buy land to just espouse, not families, but thousands of babies. Thousands of babies. Yeah. Molechian priesthood is in full effect. They gave Andy no intelligible idea of why they needed all this land and wanted all of these babies. They're not talking about children or teenagers. They're talking about babies. babies. Right? They say they wanted to create this new world order. In their mind, they will try to teach you and tell you, well, if we get the babies and children, then we can raise them up to think and believe how we want, so that when they become older, we can institute this new world order. Well, we know the new world order is a Luciferian concept. Yes, it is. It's a Luciferian concept. Right? I want to show you guys something else. Newbrough actually had a very clear sense of what he sought to accomplish. The bedrock of his venture was his concern for the destitute, a fixation with roots in his early life. Born in rural Ohio in 1828, he witnessed the health consequences of poverty while working as an assistant to a dentist in Cleveland during his high school years. After graduating, he attended medical school and finally became a dentist himself, moving to New York with the goal of tending to the often neglected dental problems of the urban poor. He then traveled the world, making a fortune in California gold rush before traversing Europe and Asia. Now look at all the places that he's gone. Mexico. He's in Europe. He's in Asia. Right? So he's in these places where these eclectic mix of spiritualist ideas are being taught. He's in the places where they're prevalent, right in the heart of those places in Europe and in Asia. It says his journeys gave him a profound sense of his misery and compounded his determination to do something about it. Sounds like a great guy, right? But watch this. Listen to this. Newbrough's obsession with babies, or babes as he called them, has less obvious sources. No one knows and was able to get from him why he wanted or needed or sought after all of these thousands of babies. He's talking about infants. Newbrough's obsession with babies, or babes as he called them, has less obvious sources, but its ramifications are evident in every aspect of his new faith. The section of Oahspe that warns against theft focuses not on food or livestock, but babies. Now behold, a certain rich man coveted his neighbor's children, and he went about and captured many of them. And withal he was mighty above his neighbors. And none of them could regain their offspring. Oahspe also permits abortion. That also thing, does it not? Does it not? Let me explain it to you this way. The higher the abortion rate goes, the less actual children there are to sacrifice or to perform these ritual practices upon when it becomes to these Molechian type influence deities or demons. They got less babies to kill because you got folks aborting these fetuses, aborting these children. So that's less children that you can pass through the fire. There's less children that you can offer and worship up to Molech. I got to see the underplay for the overplay coming. Right? But its ramifications are evident in every aspect of his new faith. The section of Oahspe that warns against theft focuses not on food or livestock, but babies. Now behold, a certain rich man coveted his neighbor's children. He went about and captured many of them, and with all he was mighty above the neighbors, and none of them could regain their offspring. Oahspe also prohibits abortion, referring to aborted fetuses as babies slain by their mothers and fathers. Newbrough's passion for babies was not limited to those in almshouses. It seems that he wanted as many as possible to come into being. I wish there were 10,000 babies fenced me in on every side. So he said he wants at least 10,000 babies on every side of him. Right? Imagine this, right? This is an obsession. This is what they called it. It says he wrote Newbrough to a friend in 1883, the year before he arrived in New Mexico, and established Shalom. Shalom is the colony that he established in New Mexico, and began to entreat others to buy more land in New Mexico at the Shalom colony. Why? So that he can have more babies. He can get more babies entrusted to his care, right? At one point I read, I believe they even had children. They had a post where if you didn't want your child, you could drop them off at an Oahspe designated point, and they would bring them to you. So he would often have many children from the New Orleans area. Many of them were white children or white babies who were children of affairs or born out of wedlock, and the mothers were ashamed to raise the children, or they were children of mixed breed. I shouldn't say mixed breed, of mixed race. They were black children and white children mixed together because of their parents. And at that time it wasn't indiscretion. They would send a child to him. The children of mixed parents. It says in a subsequent letter, he describes the living conditions in orphanages that made his efforts to acquire babies for the colony so urgent. We lost one little babe, which we bought away from the almshouse, though it was nearly dead when we received it. To me, it is perfectly appalling how these little things are slaughtered in this city. We hope to save many and to raise them up in the right way, so that as to have a new race by and by. It all sounds admirable. It all sounds admirable. But this is the tenets of the Oahspe Bible. Surprisingly, Newbrough's conception of a new race was free from scientific racism prevalent. Scientific racism was ruling during that time, right? So at a time when eugenist notions, right, talk about Margaret Sanger and, depopulation and different things like that. Margaret Sanger was one of the founders of the eugenics movement. Also, I think many people, I may have to do the lesson too, many people don't realize that Bill Gates' father was one of the founders of the eugenics movement. They actually helped found Planned Parenthood. Before it was called Parenthood, they actually changed the name of the society of these centers where you would come and they would either take your child if it was unwanted or abort the fetus. That was headed by William Gates, the Microsoft Gates, Bill Gates' father. That was headed by him, who worked really closely with Margaret Sanger. I'm going to have to do that lesson again. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to have to do that lesson again to understand these occultic practices are real, and they are alive and well. It says, at a time when eugenicist notions of racial purity were ascendant in American society, Newbrough took in all the babies he could get a hold of, baby boys and baby girls of any race and class. However, the numbers of babies he was able to bring to Ceylon was not high. Few of the settlers entering the colony already had children, and bureaucratic hurdles had made it hard for Newbrough to adopt. In a letter of 1883, Newbrough writes that there is so much roundabout red tapeism to be gone through in order to get a child out, that it dies by the time permit is granted. A Southwestern farm and orchard profile written 10 years after its establishment counts only 12 babies living there, among them a Negro baby and at least one mulatto baby before the colony's demise. The Faithists also adopted a baby of Chinese descent. The children had one thing in common: all had been orphaned, and most were among the poorest of the poor. Such were the children that John Bellou knew would inherit the earth. It is diabolical at its core. Here's to you, JJ7000. Hey, shout out to JJ7000, man. Good work, man, on Solar Man and going that cap and just going back into that reincarnation, man, and breaking it all the way down. Some of these things, man, we got to form like on, bro, and just beat it down. And that's the only way to put a lot of this stuff to rest, man. Especially in the communities in these circles we move in. You just got to beat it down. So shout out to JJ7000. The search for a place to start the colony took some time. Newbrough looked in California, but his attempts to acquire land there fell through. Returning from an exploratory trip, he stopped in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and there found many acres of arid land, just dry land, available very cheaply, not even good land to farm on. The colonists pitched their first tents there in October 1884. Ceylon colonists knew almost nothing about farming, and their first months in Mesilla Valley were hard. Growing vegetables in the unirrigated desert was a monumental task, and the Faithists who adhered to a vegetarian diet suffered. There were no buildings on the land. The construction of dormitories, kitchens, and a school began a year later, and the villagers spent the first few months living in tents. The indispensable aid of villagers from Dona Ana, just of the colony, Salem ultimately built the irrigation system, 16 miles of piping, and a 17,000-gallon reservoir. People from Dona Ana also taught the colonists how to eat beans and chilies. These people didn't know what they was doing, and worked on the commune with the Faithists. When the Faithists were overwhelmed, within a few years, Newbrough and his partner in the venture, Andrew Howland, a very interesting character. I might get into him tomorrow. Get into him tomorrow. Andrew Howland were supervising a mostly self-sustaining community, but Ceylon remained small, and so despite a lack of emphasis on proselytizing, see, this is what I mean. They weren't even going after adults; they were going after little babies by the thousands. Why wouldn't you attempt to try to grow your movement? Because it wasn't about proselytizing. It wasn't about bringing people to their faith. It was about that precious commodity, as we said from the very beginning, going after thousands and thousands and thousands of babies. That's what they were interested in. That's why we're talking about this Molechian priesthood. These diviners, these priests of Molech. So Newbrough and his wife began to travel the country. Listen to this. On baby collecting missions. Y'all if y'all listen, y'all hit these Oahspe people up, man, and tell them what's going on with the baby wrangling. How are they going? He's not even proselytizing. So what community is he going to have that's going to be taking care of these thousands and thousands and thousands of babies that they're attempting to acquire? I submit they had no intention of doing the such about raising children for the New World Order. I believe this was ritual sacrifice that they were grooming people for. To pass these children, as the scriptures say, through the fire. People will say, Yara, there's still a stretch. Let's continue reading. In New Orleans, where they spent several months, the Newbroughs established a receiving home with the slogan, children wanted, no questions asked. These folks are traveling the country collecting babies. You followers of Oahspe, y'all don't find that cringe? You really believe just he and his wife and a few were going around the country, scouring the country, seeking thousands of babies, open up and drop off spots? I'll take your baby, no questions asked. Just drop him off, drop her off. No questions asked, regardless of the race. Just drop off the baby. You really think they were going to be attempting to raise all these thousands of children virtually alone? What kind of baby collecting scam is this? Other faiths established similar homes in Kansas City, Chicago, and Philadelphia. So you got these faiths in this community inspired by this Oahspe Bible, written by John Bellou Newbrough, and around the country, not only in New Orleans and in New Mexico, but in Kansas City, Chicago, and Philadelphia, mind you, where the majority of the children that are indigent or poor or destitute, a majority of them in those cities are African American, are black children. Other faiths did the same thing. They opened up their homes as receiving homes for children. Children wanted, no questions asked. In 1894, Farm and Orchard profile of the colony described the 12 children on the farm as mostly about 8 years of age, fed entirely on vegetable food, with a liberal allowance of fruit and nuts. Their clothing, watch this, family. This is, now listen, I'm gonna have to do a part 2 on this, but I want y'all to see this. Listen to me very carefully. When y'all see these Oahspe guys floating around here on Sonetta TV and floating around here on Facebook where they real heavy at these Oahspe communities and floating around here, you know, want to debate folks and put their Oahspe book up against the Bible, right? And y'all make sure y'all bombard them with questions that why is their spiritual leader and their guide. Watch this. In 1894, Farm and Orchard profile of the colony, this 12 children on the farm as mostly about 8 years of age, fed entirely only on vegetable food, with a liberal or small allowance of fruit and nuts. Listen, family, it says their clothing consists of a little linen tunic, and they wear no hats or shoes. They receive a bath twice a day. The adults, too, watch this, wore little. Do y'all hear me? They wore little. So you got little babies running around, 8 years of age, just with little one-piece tunics on, nothing covering their heads out there in the New Mexico sun, no shoes on their feet, along with these overgrown folks, these grown folks out here who ain't hardly got no clothes on either. You barely got, what you really got is a nudist colony with little running around. Orphaned babies, along with their own children of the colonists in the Shalom colonies. The adults too wore little in Shalom, which they call the utopian desert paradise. Ann Hufstedler writes that Shalom was considered by some to be practically a nudist colony, as the men worked in the fields in white trousers, barefooted, bareheaded, and shirtless. Their long hair would naturally add to their unusual appearance. Howland, which was one of the fathers of the colony, founders of the colony, was once arrested in El Paso, Texas, for indecent appearance. What is that? Clothes. No clothes. And as we read here, we have eyewitness account. We have New York Times account. We have accounts from the Farm and Orchard, which was a reporting newspaper of the time in the area, where they had visual eyes on the colonies, and they went out there. Anyone that dealt with any type of farming, they went out there, and what they witnessed was basically a nudist colony with orphan children running around. Newbrough and his wife and others running around in major metropolitan cities, open up receiving houses for little babies to bring back to this La Cruces compound in Salem, in this Salem colony in Las Cruces, Mexico. Sounds very David Koresh, don't it? This is why I entreat our people, those of us who are level-headed, those of us who have real compassion, those of us who understand that these new age movements are steeped with child abuse, neglect, child rape, pedophilia, herbophilia. Right? Supporters of man boy love, grown men sleeping with little baby girls. But they'll today try to teach you out of the Oahspe as if they can separate it. I told you this is what they would try to do, is if they can separate it from what is actually leading you or grooming you to do. And that's bring little children and little babies into this Luciferian ritualistic practices. We got to be wise. We got to be wise in our understanding. We got to be wise in our understanding of this. Shout out to you, Yirmiyahu. We, my brother. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing a part 2. I definitely want you to come on. I'm going to be doing a part 2. I'll put the notification out later on today. I'm going to be doing a part 2 on this. This is the setup, because I haven't even gotten to the root of what we're dealing with here. Right? So I definitely want you to come on tomorrow. We're going to do a part 2. But I wanted the people to understand right out the gate, what this Oahspe, quote unquote, Bible grooms the psyche for. What it grooms your mind for. What is leading you to. And what is leading you to is to take your children and turn it over to this Luciferian doctrine, this Molechian doctrine, this Molech priesthood that has disguised itself in a new age movement. We have to be very careful, family, what we allow into our spirits. When you see these guys talking, when you hear these guys on Sinetta TV, when you hear these guys on the Facebook, and you hear these guys, listen, don't allow that foolishness to permeate your spirit. They even gotten some of y'all to go by and start reading this Oahspe Bible, which is made up of 2 words. I'll get into that tomorrow. The Oahspe. We're going to continue to deal with this occultism and the practice of the Oahspe and this faithist movement. I think we have a clear understanding today of what it is we're dealing with and why. Listen, there's a big deal around in some of our circles in our communities about not allowing pedophilia or known pedophiles to run rampant in our communities. Well, this is another grooming mechanism for it. Just like you see the New Wapians, it's a grooming mechanism for it, for pedophilia. All of these new age movements, they're breeding grounds and grooming grounds for pedophiles. And I want us to understand that. No doubt, Yirmiyahu. So we're going to be doing a part 2 tomorrow. Y'all look for the notification on this channel if you haven't already. Please like, share, subscribe. If you know anyone that's dealing with this Oahspean faithist movement, if you have anyone that wants to know more about it, please have them share. Please share this video. Have them subscribe to this channel. We're going to be talking about it more on tomorrow. We're going to be getting down to the roots of this whole thing. We're going to be getting down to the roots of this whole thing. And so, again, I appreciate everyone who joined us on today. Come back tomorrow. If you enjoyed this part of the lesson today, tomorrow's lesson is going to be even more intriguing. Is going to be even more insightful. You're going to be you're going to be mind blown about who the real players are behind this whole setup and where it all stems from. Right? So, listen, be very careful about this stuff, you know about this stuff that's floating around here. Too many people take it lightly. But please don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly. So tomorrow, please look for the notification. Subscribe to this channel. Right? Those of you who support, donated, those of you who have already subscribed, I thank you. Bring somebody with you. Right? So that we can share even more and even further. Appreciate you, family. Peace and blessings.